Hey everybody, I've had a couple of requests to give you a little bit more information about how to do this assignment, so that's what I'm going to do here. Before I start, I want you to notice one thing, that with the Move tool selected in the upper left-hand corner, I have an option of this Auto Select checkbox to be on or off. When the Auto Select checkbox is on, it will do what it says, automatically select a layer when you click on it. If it's off, what you have to do is target a layer first to make sure that you tell Photoshop what layer you want to work with by clicking on that layer, seeing it highlighted in gray. Also, of course, the layer has to be on, the eyeball has to be on. I work that way. I do not have the Auto Select on. That allows me to determine what layer I want to work on. I don't want Photoshop to make that decision. Sometimes I'm thinking I'm on one layer and I'm not. I click and I go to a different layer. It gets a little complicated. So when I'm doing these assignments and showing you how to do them, I'm going to have the Auto Select unchecked. Now, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to apply the billboard image to this billboard. You'll notice that there's an area up at the top that goes off the edge of the canvas. So I want you to know that in this assignment you can do destructive editing. In other words, you can delete pixels. That's what I'm going to do with this billboard. I'm going to target the layer, turn the eyeball on, and you'll notice that I have the billboard, and I had previously had it set to 50% opacity. I'm going to do that again just so that you can see how to do that in the opacity button at the top of the layers palette. I dial it down so I can see behind it. That allows me to manipulate this image and see what the shape is I want to manipulate it to. So I have this billboard layer selected. Now I'm going to go to the Edit menu, Transform, and I'm going to distort it. Distorting it allows me to grab the corners and move the corners wherever I want. So I'm going to grab this bottom corner and put it right there, the bottom corner there, and you can see I'm going to align up these different corners. I'm just going to kind of make a guess about where that's going to go. And then I'm going to zoom up a bit. I Command plus, and I'm going to hold down the space bar, giving me the hand grabber tool, and move it over here like this. And now I can just sort of dial this in a little bit more accurately. And if you want to zoom up even more because you're a little OCD, that's actually a good thing in Photoshop. We like it when we are a little OCD. So there you go. I've dialed that in. I've distorted it. I'm ready to complete it. I can either hit the check up here to complete this distortion, or I can hit the return key. I just hit the return key. Now I'm going to dial the opacity back up. And then, as the instructions say, I'm going to make the blending mode multiply. Now you'll notice that because it goes off the canvas, I don't get to see that, so I really don't have to delete anything there. But if I was to say come over here and do this, you'll notice that I have some pixels here that I'm going to have to delete. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to turn on the eyeball of the iPad, target the layer, do what I did before, down the opacity to about 50%, edit, transform, distort, and then move these into the corners. And again, you can take some time to be a little bit more accurate. If you want to zoom up a little bit, I would recommend you be as accurate as you can. But the point I want to show you here, finish it out, put the opacity up, make the blending mode multiply. The point I want to show you here is that I've got some areas where I've got this overlap. And I'm going to delete that. So I'm still on that iPad layer, and I will use whatever tool you're comfortable using. I'm going to just do a quick Lasso Tool edit here. And with this assignment, you don't have to be perfect, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this area right here with the Lasso Tool all the way down here, and then all of this. This is that area that overlaps on the phone, and I'm just going to hit the delete key, and then Command D deselects. I'm going to do the same thing here. It's not going to be perfect, but for this assignment, I just want you to sort of get familiar with how to do these things. I select that area, hit the delete key, Command D deselect, zoom out, Command minus, and there it's looking decent. So that's how you're going to do those flat surfaces. When it comes to the sphere, you're going to have to use you're going to have to use warp instead of distort. So I'm going to turn on the ball, turn on the layer, zoom out just a bit, and you see the first thing is that it's pretty big, so I want to resize it. Dial down the opacity so I can see behind it. Now I'm going to go to the edit menu, transform. I'm going to go to free transform, and then I'm going to resize it to be a little bit more close to this object. Now, to dial in the sides, I'm actually going to be distorting it. So in Photoshop 2020, I have to hold down the Shift key to just move the sides in by itself. So I'm doing that. Going to zoom up again just a little bit. So I'm holding down the Shift key and I'm just touching the edge there. Holding down the Shift key, bringing this one down, just touching the edge there. And the same for the left side, and then I'm going to do the same for the bottom. When I get this dialed into the edges, I'm going to complete the process by hitting the return key. Now I'm going to go back to the edit menu, transform, and now I'm going to warp it. When I'm in the warp mode, I can drag these corners down right to touching the edge, drag this one down right to touching the edge, and so on with the other two. And once I've gotten those, you'll notice that it's not quite perfect yet. I've got to fill in, I've got some open space here, but in this warp mode, all I need to do is anywhere inside the pixels that I'm working with, I can click and drag and push it. So there I'm clicking and dragging and pushing it up. Over here, I'm going to click and drag and push it to the left. Down here, I'm going to click and drag and push it down. And again, don't worry about it if these aren't perfect. We're just trying to get a feel for everything. But you'll notice I got a pretty good thing going on here. So I hit the return key, and then I'm going to dial the opacity back up, change the blending mode to multiply, which gives me the dimensional shadows in the back, and you can see that looks pretty good. The only other thing you need to deal with is the can, whether you like Pepsi or Coke, that's up to you. I'm a Coke guy. So I'm going to take the Coke label, do what I've done before, dial down the opacity so I can see. I'm going to zoom in for us to take a look here, a little bit too much. And what I want you to understand is that in the real world, you're not going to be able to see the entire label, even though we have the entire label in pixels here. So I'm going to delete half of the can, because if I was looking at it in the real world, I would only be able to see half the can. So I'm going to grab the rectangular marquee tool, figure out about half where half the can is, maybe it's a little bit over, and just hit the delete key. Boom, I got half the can, half the label deleted. Command D deselects, and now I'm going to work with this label. The first thing I'm going to do is what I did before, and that is I'm going to transform, distort, allowing me to put the corners where I want them to be. And I'm going to zoom up for you a little bit. So I'm going to take these corners and put them where I want them to be and dial those in on the edges. And dial it over here. And you're not trying to get this lip part of the can, so don't worry about that. Now you'll notice that I've got the edges pretty decent, but I still got some areas here I have to deal with, but that's okay. We're going to come back just like we did in the ball or the sphere and use the warp tool to do that. So I'm going to complete this. Now I'm going to go back go back edit, transform, warp, and I'm going to do what I did before. I'm going to drag those down, position some of that, drag that down, maybe drag that down a little bit in that area, drag that down a little bit in that area, and I'm going to use the warp tool to sort of dial this in and get it looking right. And once I have it looking right, I hit the return key, complete the process, dial up the opacity, make the blending mode multiply, and things are looking pretty good. And there you have it.